I'm going to be real with you guys. I have had so many problems with domains. A significant number of them are admittedly skill issues, but even more of them weren't. The amount of times I've had domains get taken from me for reasons that I had no control or oversight over, just to be held ransom for thousands of dollars in fees because some provider from some random country that happens to operate the .ggTLD decided that this day they wanted to charge me more money. And that one was... Ugh. Did you know you have to renew those domains over a month before they're going to expire? Or you have to pay this crazy fee? I've been through it with country code TLDs and domain registration in general. Almost every domain I have, I've had some issue with at some point, but none of them go quite as far as the story I'm here to tell you guys today. Because poor Snigda had her domain taken from her by Namecheap and then got sued for it. Yes, Namecheap sued her personally. I've never seen anything quite like this. And the story is as frustrating as it is heartbreaking. It has massively impacted her business and the work that she is doing. And I think it is a good showcase of how risky domains are as a surface area and what you have to be considerate of as you build a business nowadays. There's a lot to think about here. And honestly, I hope you never have to. In an ideal world, you'll never have any problems like this. And as such, you'll never have to worry about it. But if you are building real products that have real websites, there's a chance you'll have to worry about this. And hopefully, going through the story here will make you less likely to get screwed the way that this poor founder was. As someone who's personally had bad experiences with Namecheap, I'm going to be a bit biased here because I want to watch them burn. So know that going in. Do you know what I've never had any problems with, though? Today's sponsor. We're shipping way more code than ever. That also means we're probably shipping more bugs than ever, unless we use today's sponsor to catch them. Greptile, the best AI code reviewer. Greptile deeply understands your code base, and it uses that understanding to catch mistakes that almost nothing else can. I'm regularly surprised that it found bugs that not only other tools couldn't, but I couldn't. It has personally prevented me from shipping many bugs and regressions to users. I saw it on a ton of open source repos, so I went to grab examples, but when I told them I was doing this, they went and did it for me and made a whole Greptile in action page for all the open source projects using Greptile. By the way, open source projects get a 100% discount and startups get a 50% discount. So if you are doing meaningful open source work, you should probably be using these guys. There are literally dozens of examples of big open source projects from companies like NVIDIA that had bugs prevented because of Greptile. Here's a bug where PostHog almost broke sorting by using the same variable twice instead of comparing the two different variables that Greptile caught. This would have shipped otherwise. Here's a real PR and a real NVIDIA repo that it gave a 3 out of 5 confidence score because it caught a bunch of potential bugs and risks, even flagging down which specific files these concerns are coming from. The author made the changes, said it was a good catch, and then it re-reviewed with a perfect score. Do you know how convenient this is? Do you know how good it feels to bump a 3 or a 2 out of 5 to a 5 out of 5? It's so much more rewarding and less grindy than traditional code review processes. Instead of putting up a PR, waiting a day for a review, making some changes, then waiting another day for feedback, it's such a tight loop. Greptile's changed how I ship code. I bet it will for you too. Check them out now at soydev.link/Greptile. Fucking Fammy. This feels like a bad time to own BillGates.sexy. Yeah. Let's dive in. Cautionary tale for fellow startup founders. Namecheap just sued her personally. There's a community note because there are people who are upset. Some amount of it's real, some amount of it's just sexism. We'll get to all of that, don't worry. But first, we need to actually read what she has to say. In January of 2025, Namecheap shut down my company's website globally. I was forced to file a temporary restraining order against them to get our site back. An American court ruled in my favor. This is a state of Arizona court motion. The court, having considered Ink Mango, in this case the plaintiff's, motion pursuant to this litigation for temporary restraining order and good cause appearing, it is hereby ordered that plaintiff's motion is granted. So this is, you can keep the domain. Temporary restraining order means that's yours. The domain is for her business, The Juggernaut, on thejuggernaut.com. As she puts it, she runs The Juggernaut. It's a startup that tells powerful South Asian stories. When Namecheap took them offline, the business came to a screeching halt. Growth, usage, and word of mouth is a startup's lifeblood. They lost all of it in a few weeks. That is so hard for any business, but especially something like this where it's so deeply tied to the website. There are so many businesses that I only know how to interface with via the website and like typing in the URL. I'll use my Helium browser because this is what I use for this type of stuff. But like when I want to go see what's going on in music, I type in PI and it goes to Pitchfork. When I want to go check in on some code, I type GI and I go to GitHub. When I want to ask a question about something going on in the world or just general intelligence stuff, I type T3 and I go to T3 chat, the best AI chat ever made. Highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out. So losing the thing that people autocomplete their brains to and their browsers to is really, really painful. I don't know how we would bounce back if we lost the T3 chat domain. Our entire web presence vanished overnight. People couldn't read articles. Customers were furious. We lost paying subscribers and couldn't acquire any new ones, especially in one of our biggest acquisition months. We lost years of SEO that we had painstakingly built. That one is really, really bad too. We've been fucked with this with stuff like T3 chat. To this day, T3 chat does not place properly in Google search results, primarily because we were incorrectly placed on a filter for spam and scam sites because some haters of mine during a specific drama with a specific media encoding library decided to go false flag all of our domains. It took multiple days and many a string pull for me to get our sites unlisted from these spam sites. It was horrible. Even like Spam House and ones that are meant to be the good ones ruined our ability for people to do shit. And we were at the point where users of Upload Thing, our file upload service, which if you're not familiar with, one of the coolest things we built, it's the easiest way to do file upload. Our CDN domain for where assets are resolved got hit by one of those filters because, again, people were falsely flagging our domains to these different spam collectors and providers that give these lists to companies like ISPs and whatnot. And even though we got it pulled within 24 hours, there were multiple ISPs in Europe that kept blocking Upload Thing URLs. So a handful of our users that had customers in Europe couldn't resolve assets like PDFs, images, whatever they were hosting, because some random asshole reported us to some random asshole company that got us flagged. It's actually insane how easy it is to ruin a company by doing weird shit to their domain. Here's the story from when this happened back in October. Spam House false flagged us. Specifically, our domain was listed as being for phishing and criminal activity. Obviously a false flag. And our SEO to this day is fucked because of this one thing. There are all of these players in the domain space, be it your registry and your registrar, which are two different things that own different parts of the process, be it the governing body for the TLD. If you have a TLD that's like a .gg, .li, .uk, the governing entities for those is a whole separate thing. And then you have these spam lists that are published and sold to companies to determine which websites should or shouldn't be auto-blocked. The fact that there are so many layers here where any one of them deciding they don't like you or failing you can destroy your whole business is horrifying. You know the XKCD dependency comic where it's like, here's everything that we're building on top of stuff, and on here is like a solid, well-funded thing like Linux, and then here is something that's smaller and less well-funded that we rely on. Every website is this, but on this bottom section, you have the registry, the registrar, and then this tiny little thin one is more like a toothpick. It's Spam House and other spam and site like reputation lists. And these pieces can break and destroy your life at any point in time if you run a company. As happened to poor Snigda here. Shutting down a news organization also raises serious First Amendment and free speech concerns. Absolutely agree. The fact that you can use this as a method of censorship, as is what happened to me, people were unhappy about my takes around a specific open source library's governance and decided that I should not be allowed to run a business. People went as far as saying I deserved it and I knew what I was asking for daring to say that a specific open source library probably shouldn't be dunking on random contributors and funders for it on Twitter. Crazy take, I know, but the fact that I donated $5,000 to a library's development and then had issues with how they dunked on people on Twitter should not cost me my company. That is censorship. And the funniest part with that one was that people were accusing me of censoring the project for having an opinion and then went off to legitimately try and censor me using weird levers and power grabs that should absolutely be illegal. I am full on okay with the idea of criminal prosecution for anyone who does shit like this. Be it the Namecheap person who's trying to sue this poor girl, be it the company that is abusing copyright law to cause this, or be it the individuals knowingly filing false flags to harm businesses. That should be criminal. Period. Back to this poor situation. When this happened, they were in mid-conversation with investors, and they had to suspend that because the investors would go check the site, and it wasn't even fucking there. One investor even messaged me on LinkedIn asking if I had shut down my business because he couldn't find it online anymore. Yeah. Do you know how hard that conversation must be to explain to an investor who's possibly put millions of dollars into your business? Yeah, sorry you can't see our website right now. I'm actually in the middle of a lawsuit. That's not what they invested into you for. They didn't invest into you so you could win lawsuits. They invested in you so you could win, period. Despite multiple messages to Namecheap support, the company was unresponsive. So she, poor thing, had to sue Namecheap personally to recover the domain. Now, because of that, Namecheap is suing her back. Namecheap's claim is that the domain was registered in her name, even though it was used for her company. This is very, very common. Also, I'm pretty sure most domains require that you have a personal business contact as one of the parts of the ICANN registration process. Like, you have to have a name registered. The fact that her name is a name registered to this domain, that is not just the company, is their excuse for suing her instead of the company, is absurd. And it's not like they're suing her LLC or some entity. They are suing her personally. I've already been saying things that can get me in trouble. I'm going to say one more. This is a strategy that has been weaponized by a lot of religious cults, in particular, the Church of Scientology. The only reason the Church of Scientology is a tax-exempt organization in the United States is because they would personally sue every single person they found working for the IRS. They would instruct members of the Church of Scientology to personally reach out to people that were working for the IRS and sue them as individuals. None of the lawsuits ever succeeded, but all of them wasted enough time for the IRS employees that the IRS was going to collapse under the weight of half their employees being busy in these bullshit court cases. So the IRS gave up and gave the church their fucking tax-exempt status. And they did it by doing this bullshit. Using the courts to crush your competition, not by beating them with the law, but by distracting them with the process, is horrifying. And if you have any doubt about anything I just said, you can look it up. This is very well known. In 1993, the Church of Scientology and the IRS reached a landmark secret settlement ending decades of intense legal battles, granting the church tax-exempt status as a religion in exchange for dropping over 2,500 lawsuits against the agency, most of which were against individual employees of the agency. Actual insanity. So I guess that Namecheap and the Church of Scientology have more in common than I would have guessed. Crazy. Namecheap also claims that it had broad discretion to shut down your domain, quote, at any time for any reason. That's part of their terms. They claim they have the right to do that at any point. Horrifying. And that creates massive uncertainty for founders. And now Namecheap is trying to win exorbitant legal fees from her, despite the court saying that they deserve the domain back. So again, the court said she deserves the domain. Namecheap declined that and is now countersuing her and trying to squeeze legal fees out of her. The original CEO of Namecheap had tweeted previously saying that he'll get the domain back, primarily because Gary Tan jumped in and asked questions. In the meantime, properly geofence India from your core domain and do not work around this as a redirect to another domain from your core domain, and he'll temporarily bring it back. So specifically what it seems like happened was that in India, the bullshit trademark case about Juggernaut, because another company claimed to own the Juggernaut trademark, sued her and forced Namecheap to remove the domain from her, even though that ruling was only applicable in India, and other courts, specifically the court that both her company and Namecheap are incorporated in the United States, went against that ruling. The India courts firmly stated that this domain cannot be owned by her. So the workaround was that the CEO personally said, as long as you don't use this domain in India, we'll give it back to you. And then Gary Tan jumped in. This sounds like what you're demanding is even beyond what the New Delhi courts and the plaintiff advocated for. This idea that the domain should not work at all within India is not what the original court case pushed for in New Delhi. But Namecheap just wants to wipe their hands clean, and technically speaking, they can do whatever they want. But again, Namecheap's a company. They can choose if and how they provide you services. And it seems in this case, they decided to just put the work on the founder instead of make a service work well for the specific details of this ruling. And it was significantly easier for them to just remove the domain or force her to apply one rule to the domain that makes the experience a lot worse. Because technically speaking, there's no reason she shouldn't be able to redirect the juggernaut.com domain in India to something else that is within her trademark rights there. But again, an American court operating as two American companies ruled that Namecheap needs to do things a certain way, and they overrode that. Namecheap's valued at $1.5 billion. And poor Snigda hasn't raised the Series A yet, so she has way less than 3 mil, almost certainly, probably less than $1 mil in the bank for this. So that's like, you can't deal with that. I'm going to keep fighting in court. I refuse to be intimidated. As a YC alum, it feels like it's my responsibility to warn others. This can happen to you. If you'd like to help, please amplify this thread. Then the old CEO came in and claimed that this is public lies and manipulation of the truth. Things aren't going to get any easier. That's a threat. That's a threat from the CEO of a billion-dollar company. The case started in 2019 and ruling after ruling has been made against you. You even stopped responding at some point because you thought you could ignore your responsibility. Settled means you faced the facts and gave in to the demands. You've made this whole situation worse for yourself now. Okay, so the party suing is Juggernaut Books. Juggernaut Books does online publishing of digital books and also has started doing physical books afterwards. Whereas the Juggernaut is South Asian Stories You Need to Know, like clearly a news site. Is there some overlap between a book publisher and a news site? Yeah. But in American courts, this would never stand. These are obviously distinct enough entities that no one's going to reasonably confuse the two, which is the general litmus test for trademark law here. The Juggernaut is the news site. Juggernaut Books is a different entity that is the company doing the lawsuit. I think personally, it's a bit absurd that you can prevent the use of a generic term like Juggernaut for things that aren't even in competition with you. Absurdity. Like, this is a very clear order from the U.S. courts. It is further ordered that defendant Namecheap Inc., its officers, agents, directors, affiliates, servants, employees, and all persons acting in concert with them hereby enjoined from preventing or frustrating plaintiff's use of its registered domain, thejuggernaut.com, provided that the primary domain is geofenced to prevent access to the primary domain from users in India. That was the only restriction. I even think this is stupid, that like the American court is making rulings on other courts like this, but that's the only counter argument that Namecheap had. More callouts here that they are specifically enjoined from restricting access to the domain or indirectly causing the expiration of the domain, which is another thing Namecheap loves to do, is make it too easy to let your domain expire so they can charge you crazy fees. I've experienced that. Many others have too. And here's a U.S. counterclaim. Let's see how this one went. This is filed by the attorneys. This isn't a court document. This is the attorneys. Let's see how the courts responded to that, though. Oh, weird. Namecheap took the time to include their counterclaim, but they did not take the time to include the court's response by the looks of it. I wonder why. It's also sus that this is only the lawsuit Namecheap filed against the company and not the separate one they filed against her. This is a great one. This is the legal mail that was sent from the legal firm for Namecheap to these guys. This letter follows Mr. Brycer's November 6, 2025 telephone call with my partner, Eugene Rome, during which Mr. Brycer expressly communicated on behalf of your client, Sting to Sir, that 1. Ink Mango has made a settlement demand. 2. Miss Sir does not appreciate being personally named. 3. Miss Sir demands that Namecheap dismiss its counterclaim within 10 days. And 4. If we do not, Miss Sir intends to, quote, go to Twitter to talk about the case. Because this threat was affirmably conveyed by counsel as part of your settlement communication, the conduct is attributed to counsel as well. For the reasons below, the threat is improper, unprotected, and exposes Miss Sir to potential civil liability and your firm to both civil and ethical consequences. This is them sending their lawyers after her and her lawyers, saying, if you actually go to Twitter like you said you will, we will sue you for threatening us. Insanity. How the fuck did the CEO post this Google Drive thinking this would clear him in any way? I was actually expecting to like see some stuff and you're like, okay, that's fair. I see the other side. No, I'm going to go fucking yell at him for this. It is done. So like that last bit here, to be very clear, for the reasons below, the threat is improper, unprotected, and exposes Miss Sir to potential civil liability and your firm to both civil and ethical consequences. That is the Namecheap legal firm threatening Miss Sir and her legal firm. Because they see we will go public as a threat, they now feel in the right making their own. Are you joking? So the next question you have, and it's the right one, where do you go now? Great question. I am going to drop the hot take that any business that makes the majority of their income through fees and margins on domains is probably not the best place to register your domains. I would not trust GoDaddy particularly more than I would trust Namecheap. If these margins are how you make your money, then you're going to squeeze every fucking penny you can. And I've seen this a lot with these registrars. Even like GoDaddy, I guarantee, I haven't been to this website in a minute. I'll put money on it. The word AI occurs in the first 2 sentences or the header because they're going to do anything they can to make money. Oh, They actually haven't. Oh, there we go. Build your site at the speed of AI. I was wondering where it would be hidden on the page. The point I want to make here is that like they have to do dirty things to win because there isn't much margin to be had. Because the domain registrars, like the places we go to buy domains, those are not the lower level registry. They're effectively resellers. Think of domain registrars less like a Walmart or a Trader Joe's and more like a gas station. Like there's only so many suppliers and everyone's buying from it. It's really, really hard to make a profit off of just gas, which is why most gas stations make their money by selling other things like in their little convenience stores and whatnot. That's like essential for them to make meaningful margins. Domains are very similar because all of these domain companies are buying from the same 3 or 4 registries. The ones that make all of their money off of that margin can't really be trusted, and they'll always do crazy stuff. Like if you see a crazy deal like your first year is only 1 cent, like here, a .com for only 1 cent for the first year. The reason they do that is because they charge 20 to 30% more than everybody else for the second year, the third year, and the fourth year, and the math works out that it ends up being profitable over time. Personally, I only like working with registrars that have 2 specific traits. 1, they make their money elsewhere, and 2, they're sensitive to their reputation on Twitter. Starting with this point, what am I referring to? When I mention Cloudflare or Vercel, what comes to mind? It's probably not the domains product. Every domain I've personally registered in the last 3 years has been either on Vercel domains or it has been on Cloudflare's domains. Neither of these companies make money off of their domain selling. If anything, I'm pretty certain that Vercel loses money because they've been too generous about weird disputes. Like I had problems with my .gg domain on Vercel because they didn't set up the registry process properly for that specific TLD at the time. That's all been fixed and then some, but at the time it was bad and cost some fees, and Vercel just ate the fees for me. And that's not just because I'm Theo. That's because I was one of 4 people who were affected by this particular implementation failure, and they refunded all 4 of us those fees that were in the thousands of dollars. So that just was a raw cost they ate because Vercel's not trying to make money off the domains. It's not like, oh, we lost this money off of these domains. Now we have to go sell 5,000 domains to make up for it. For them, it's much more so, we lost the money on these domains, but we'll probably make the money back on these customers over time because these same customers are buying other things on our service. Somebody said, what about country TLDs though? Cloudflare Vercel don't offer those. They don't? Looks like GG isn't offered because GG is an evil one. I would argue if they're not offered on Cloudflare or Vercel, you probably shouldn't buy them because they're full of catches. I cannot tell you how many problems I've had with my .gg domain. They do have .ai, even though that's a country TLD. So you have some options there. But CCTLDs are evil and you should avoid them at all costs. The other reason I'm mentioning Vercel, though, is point 2. They care about their reputation, specifically on Twitter. I am now at the point where it's really hard for me to justify using a product or service that doesn't care about their reputation because it's such a strong lever to have. Oh, Theo, you just have that because you have followers. No. In fact, earlier today, someone came into my chat that I remember specifically because despite having under 50 followers on Twitter, he caused one of the most hellish days in the history of Vercel because he had a bug in his code that caused AstroCode to redirect loop and do thousands of server calls before it would eventually die. That caused him to get a random like $400 bill on Vercel. And then Vercel's default support didn't refund him because they didn't understand it. So then he posted on Twitter about it. It blew the fuck up and he got refunded. He got personal support from the CEO and from Lee Rob when he was still there. He got patches in Astro. He got patches in Vercel. A lot of actual things changed as a result of this random developer complaining on Twitter in a digestible way because Vercel cares a lot about how people feel about them on Twitter. Believe me, I know better than anyone. Vercel cares too much about these things. And as much as that sucks, that they care too much about Twitter, it's a lever you have as a customer. And with things as important as your domains, you need levers because there's so many against you. The fact that a random hater can go false flag you to a bunch of spam trackers is enough a reason that you need leverage back. You need ways to, for better or worse, exploit the other party here because they will be quick to do the same to you and others will be even quicker to use them against you. So who would I recommend based on these things? I know we don't all love Vercel, but Vercel for domains is pretty solid. They have annoying rules around CNAMEs that makes it stupid, but for the most part, Vercel is good here. Cloudflare can be too, but I've had some weird issues with Cloudflare in particular. It's very hard to take a subdomain from a domain you have on Cloudflare and have that subdomain go somewhere else. Very unreliable. So for those reasons, I personally lean Vercel between these two, but there are lots of other really good options. One that I am really fond of that is a sponsor, not of today's video or any of the content now, but they've sponsored in the past, and I hope they continue in the future. DN Simple. DN Simple, yes, they make their money on margins for domains, but they have slightly higher margins because they have a very different service. It's their goal to make it as easy as possible to manage everything to do with your domains via your code. And they're selling their control plane and their SDK as much as they're selling domains. But more importantly, they're just a small team of people based out of Florida, if I recall. I did a call with the founders because they wanted to sponsor, and it was the husband and wife founders of the company wearing their branded t-shirts, really excited to beat me because they've watched my videos and like them. Every employee at the company is an actual engineer. So when you go to support, you're talking to real engineers. You can just tell when you read the SDK, it's like, okay, they're devs. They get it. They understand. And since they're smaller, they're inherently going to be much more sensitive to their reputation. If the first time you hear about D and Simple, it's because someone had a bad experience, they're screwed. So as much as I hate to say, you should make my sponsor feel bad if they screw you, you should. If any of my sponsors make your life harder or screw you or hurt your business, tell me about it and be loud about it publicly. I don't want sponsors that cause problems for my viewers. If anyone in my audience has an issue with any of my sponsors, please tell me so that I can rethink my relationship with them and use my leverage to pressure them, because it's important. It's really important. So for all of those reasons, D and Simple's a very good bet. I also know a ton of people who have been using them heavily, including but not limited to the Linux Foundation. So they seem like a reliable bet. I wouldn't worry about them. And while D and Simple didn't sponsor, use soydev.link/DandSimple to make sure they know you came from me. It helps. Thank you. Anyways, there's one last name that I've been hearing come up a lot, and if I look at my chat right now, it's half of it. It's a little scary to me, but I think they're fine. Porkbun. I have a couple domains on Porkbun. I've had no problems. From what I have heard, most people haven't. And they also, the very least in terms of reviews, seem to care a lot about how much people like them and use them. So I would bet that if you had a problem and you went and complained on Trustpilot or on Twitter, there's a good chance they'll hop in and deal with it. This is a fun back and forth that happened related to all of this a few days later. Someone had their domain that they were searching for on GoDaddy get purchased as they were searching and then resold to them, like a classic rug pull. Insanity. And it should absolutely be illegal. I agree with Britain there. But I don't agree with Britain saying that you should always use Namecheap because Google Domains is dead. I said use Vercel, Cloudflare, or some company that doesn't make their income off upcharging for domains. Porkbun is fine too. Josh Wright Community came in and said, careful with Porkbun. If you have any valuable domains, he had a problem. She links to here. He's going to email that $15,000 of domains is past expiration. That shouldn't be. Auto renews on credit cards attached. Get this error. He loses $15K of domains. He's not going to be happy. So he said that, and Porkbun hopped in. We try to make it right, but sometimes you can't fix a wrong. We're humans trying to do our best, and although we strive for perfection, haven't quite gotten there yet. We obviously have many tens of thousands of valuable domains used and owned by many thousands of users who trust us with their assets every day. So they linked to their tweets replying to these issues here. Registry suspended domains are done at the registry level by the registry and not the registrar. Again, the separation between these two is confusing to people. The registry is who determines what is allowed on a given TLD. And then they sell that to a registrar like Porkbun, Namecheap, or any of these that can then sell it to you. So the registrar is the company that works with the registry to get your domain made, but the registry has to be okay with it. And the registry can have all sorts of weird rules, regulations, and things they want to do. And occasionally, if the registry doesn't like you or the thing about what you did or how your registrar is working with them, then you get screwed because there's all of these layers. But a registrar blocking your account from renewing other domains because a TLD registrar suspended a domain with an invalid information request happens at the registrar level. And TLD registrar, what he means is a registry. So registry at the bottom requested that Porkbun suspend one of his domains, and in the process, they locked his whole account, which sucks. That was on an unused domain, and it blocked his ability to renew other domains. We're sorry that we lost your trust. It was a series of unfortunate events, but what happened will not be able to happen again. As a builder and business owner yourself, I'm guessing you can appreciate that things sometimes can and do go wrong. We'll fix what caused your issue, and we'll do better, but it's unfortunate that it happened to you, and I apologize that it did. This type of ownership is why I'm okay with recommending them still. It's clear they care. It's clear they're trying. I have a lot of respect for that. And the ownership of we did this wrong, we screwed this up is also really rare. I've never seen Namecheap admit that they fucked something up before. You know what? I'll put that as a point here. This is possibly the biggest, most important point, because if they can't admit that they screwed up, the likelihood that they fix the thing is much lower, and the likelihood that they sue you is much higher. So as Maria put it, Apple would never do something like this. I agree. I would never register a domain through Apple. I'm thankful they don't offer that product. But as long as they make money other ways, they care about their reputation, and they admit when they're mistaken and they screw up, you're probably good. So everything in this list is totally fine for me. There's probably others that meet these requirements and are solid. GoDaddy does not. Two Cows does not. And sure as shit, Namecheap does not. So yeah, I think I've said all I have to here. Be careful with your domains and make sure they're registered with somebody you can actually trust. And until next time, peace nerds.